At 20,000 feet below the ocean's surface, the research vessel Deep Seeker hung motionless in the dark waters of the Mariana Trench. Inside the ship's main control room, Dr. James Walker stared at the scanning display with wide eyes. After 15 years of searching, he had finally found something that would change everything. "Sir, you need to see this," called out Tom, the vessel's sonar technician. His voice trembled slightly. "The structure. It's massive." Dr. Walker moved closer to the main screen, adjusting his glasses. The sonar map showed clear geometric patterns that nature simply couldn't create. Perfect right angles and symmetrical corridors stretched out beneath the ocean floor. The structure was easily the size of 10 football fields. How did we miss this all these years? He wondered aloud, running his fingers through his graying hair. The answer came to him immediately. They hadn't missed it. The structure had been hidden by some kind of energy field that their latest equipment had finally penetrated. The ship's captain, Mike Reynolds, stepped forward. "Doc, are we really looking at what I think we are? A building at this depth?" "Not just a building," Dr. Walker replied, pointing at the readings. "Look at the material composition. This structure is made of metals we've never seen before, and it's giving off a faint energy signature." The Discovery team worked quickly to launch their deep-sea drones. As the mechanical explorers descended toward the structure, the control room fell silent. Everyone watched the video feeds with held breath. The first images made history. Smooth, dark walls rose from the ocean floor, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a faint blue light. The drone's lights revealed massive doorways, each one sealed tight against the crushing depths. "There," Dr. Walker pointed at one of the screens. "That looks like an entrance we might be able to access." It took them 6 hours to get the smaller exploration drone through the ancient airlock system. The machine's cameras revealed corridors that shouldn't exist, perfectly preserved spaces that showed no sign of water damage despite their impossible depth. But it was what they found in the central chamber that changed everything. "Oh my God," whispered Linda, their chief engineer. The drone's lights illuminated a vast circular room filled with what looked like sleeping pods arranged in concentric circles. Each pod was connected to machinery that hummed with quiet power, despite being who knew how old. In the pods, they could see figures, human figures. Dr. Walker's hands shook as he directed the drone closer to one of the pods. The transparent surface revealed a face that looked perfectly human. A man who appeared to be sleeping, his expression peaceful. But the readings from their instruments told a different story. "These power readings," Linda said, checking her instruments again. "Whatever's keeping these pods running, it's more advanced than anything we have. And look at the DNA scans." The genetic readings made no sense. The figures in the pods appeared human, but showed markers of genetic engineering far beyond current science. Their cellular structure was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Just then, their radio crackled to life. "Dr. Walker." It was the surface team. "We're picking up something entering Earth's atmosphere. Multiple objects, moving fast. The military is tracking them." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the control room flickered. The ancient facility's systems were activating, responding to something. The symbols on the walls began to pulse with stronger light, and the pod's power signatures spiked. "Sir," Tom called out in alarm. "Something's broadcasting from the facility. A signal. It's aimed at the incoming objects." Dr. Walker looked at the sleeping figure in the pod again. As he watched, the man's eyes began to move beneath their lids, as if dreaming. Whatever they had found, whatever these beings were, they weren't just some ancient artifact. They were alive. And now, after who knew how many thousands of years, something had triggered their systems to wake up. The radio crackled again. This time, it was military command. "Dr. Walker, you need to secure that facility immediately. We have first contact. I repeat, we have first contact. Multiple alien vessels have just entered orbit, and they're asking about what you found." Dr. Walker looked at his team. Then back at the sleeping figures in their pods. Humanity had just discovered its biggest secret, and the stars themselves had noticed. There would be no going back from this moment. The white walls of the United Nations Emergency Chamber felt cold and sterile as Ambassador Thex of the Stellar Concordat made his first appearance before Earth's leaders. His tall, slender form moved with fluid grace, his silver skin reflecting the room's bright lights. Two other aliens flanked him, their ceremonial armor gleaming. Dr. Walker sat in the back row, still wearing his expedition clothes. He hadn't slept in 36 hours, not since the military had rushed him from the Mariana Trench to New York. The coffee in his hand had gone cold, but he couldn't take his eyes off the aliens. "We come in peace," Thex's translator device spoke in perfect English. "The Stellar Concordat welcomes humanity to the greater galactic community." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward to respond, but before she could speak, one of Thex's guards suddenly stiffened. The alien pulled out a device that looked like a crystal tablet, its surface flashing with urgent red symbols. Thex's posture changed instantly. His previous warmth vanished, replaced by rigid alertness. "There is an energy signature," he said sharply. "One we have not detected on Earth in millennia." "Explain." The room erupted in confused whispers. The Secretary-General looked back at Dr. Walker, who stood up slowly. "I believe," he said carefully, "you're detecting our recent discovery in the Mariana Trench." "Impossible." Thex's voice carried none of its earlier diplomacy. "Those facilities were all destroyed. We made sure of it." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. General Adams of the U.S. Joint Chiefs stepped forward. "Ambassador, are you saying you've been to Earth before?" "Not us," Thex replied. His silver skin had taken on a darker shade. "Our ancestors. They fought a war here, long ago, against beings that should not exist." He turned to face Dr. Walker directly. "The stasis pods. How many have you found?" The room fell silent. Dr. Walker felt every eye on him as he answered, 48 pods. All active. All occupied." The reaction was immediate. The alien guards raised their weapons. Thex's translator couldn't keep up with his rapid speech, but the meaning was clear. They were terrified. "You will surrender control of the facility immediately," Thex demanded once his translator caught up. "Those beings must not be awakened. They are too dangerous to be allowed to exist." General Adams moved to stand between Thex and Dr. Walker. "Ambassador, you come to our world, admit your people had some ancient war here, and now demand we hand over a discovery on our own planet. That's not how first contact should work." "You don't understand." Thex's voice carried genuine fear now. "Those are not your ancestors in those pods. They are the war gods, the ones who nearly broke reality itself in their battles. We thought they were all dead." The Secretary-General tried to regain control of the situation. "Perhaps if you explained." A high-pitched tone cut through the room. Dr. Walker pulled out his phone. The message from his research team made his blood run cold. "The pods," he announced, his voice shaking slightly. "They're all showing increased activity. Whatever's in them, they're responding to your presence, Ambassador." Thex stepped back. "Then it's too late. The protocols are clear." He touched a device on his wrist. "This planet harbors Class Omega entities. Containment protocols are now in effect." Warning sirens began blaring throughout the building. On every screen in the room, satellite imagery showed more ships appearing in Earth's orbit, hundreds of them, emerging from what looked like tears in space itself. "What are you doing?" General Adams demanded. "Protecting the galaxy," Thex replied coldly. "You have 1 hour to surrender the facility, or we will be forced to sterilize this entire region of space. The war gods cannot be allowed to return." Dr. Walker thought about the sleeping figures in their pods, deep beneath the ocean. He thought about the strange readings, the advanced technology, and now this extreme reaction from an advanced alien civilization. What exactly had humanity discovered in those depths? And more importantly, what would these beings do when they finally woke up? Deep beneath the ocean, Colonel Lisa Stone stared at the stasis pod containing the being that might be humanity's last hope. The military base hastily built around the ancient facility hummed with activity as soldiers and scientists rushed to prepare for what might be humanity's last stand. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Walker asked, checking the pod's readings one last time. "Once we wake him, there's no going back." Above them, the stellar Concordet's fleet had grown to over 1,000 ships. Their ultimatum had less than 15 minutes remaining. Earth's combined military forces stood ready, but everyone knew they stood no chance against such advanced technology. "We're out of options," Colonel Stone replied, her hand hovering over the activation panel. "Better to die trying than surrender our planet to aliens who've already admitted to attacking Earth in the past." The pod they'd chosen was different from the others. While most contained sleeping figures in simple robes, this one held a man in what looked like battle armor. The nameplate, translated from its ancient script, read simply, "Marcus, Shield of Earth." Dr. Walker nodded and began the awakening sequence. The pod's crystal surface glowed with increasing brightness. Ancient machinery that had slept for thousands of years whirred to life, and the room filled with a soft blue light. The man in the pod opened his eyes. They were not human eyes. They glowed with an inner light that spoke of power beyond normal human limits. As the pod opened with a soft hiss, Marcus sat up with fluid grace that seemed impossible after such a long sleep. "You've done well to wait," he said in perfect English, surprising everyone. "Though I sense our old enemies have returned sooner than expected." "You can speak our language?" Dr. Walker asked, amazed. "And you know about the Concordat?" Marcus stepped out of the pod, his armor shifting and adjusting itself as if alive. "We speak all languages. It's part of what we are." He looked up, seemingly seeing through miles of ocean and air to the fleet above. "And yes, I know them. They fear what they don't understand, and they never understood us." "What exactly are you?" Colonel Stone asked, her hand still resting on her sidearm. Marcus smiled, and for a moment he looked completely human. "We are humanity's guardians. Your ancestors. Your future." He held out his hand, and a hologram of Earth appeared above it. "Long ago, we knew humanity would face this moment. We knew you would need to develop on your own, find your own path. But we also knew you would need help when the greater threats arrived." "Greater threats?" Dr. Walker asked. "The Concordat isn't the real threat. They are children playing with powers they barely understand," Marcus replied. His eyes flashed. "The real threat is what made us necessary in the first place. But first, we need to deal with them." He touched the wall, and the entire facility came alive with light. In their pods, the other sleeping figures began to stir, but Marcus wasn't done. He raised his hand, and everyone in the room felt a strange sensation, like static electricity running through their bodies. "What are you doing?" Colonel Stone demanded. "Awakening what was always yours," Marcus replied. "Every human carries our legacy in their DNA. It just needs a key." Dr. Walker gasped as his hand began to glow with the same blue light as the facility. Colonel Stone found herself understanding military strategies that had never occurred to her before. Around the world, thousands of humans suddenly discovered abilities they never knew they had. 10 minutes until their deadline, the soldier reported. Marcus smiled again, but this time it wasn't entirely friendly. "Perfect. Just enough time to show them why they were right to fear us." He looked at Colonel Stone and Dr. Walker. "Ready to help me save your world?" Above them, the Concordat fleet prepared to fire. They had no idea that the sleeping gods had finally awakened, or that humanity was about to show them why Earth had been worth protecting all along. The sky above New York blazed with light as the Concordat's first attack met Earth's awakened defenders. Marcus stood atop the Empire State Building, his armor glowing with blue energy as he directed the defense. Around him, newly awakened humans discovered powers they never knew they had. Dr. Walker watched in amazement from the military command center as regular people transformed into something more. Army Captain Robert Mills suddenly understood alien technology as if he built it himself. Air Force pilot Kate Wilson flew her jet with impossible skill, her mind somehow connected to her aircraft. It's like they're remembering things they never knew they forgot, Dr. Walker said, studying the readings on his tablet. The same blue energy that powered Marcus's armor now showed up in thousands of human DNA scans. Colonel Stone burst into the room, her eyes glowing with the same blue light. "More facilities are activating," she reported. "We found pods in the Himalayas, the Sahara, and under the Pacific. They're all waking up." On the main screen, they watched as Marcus raised his hand toward an incoming Concordat battleship. The alien vessel, large enough to cover Manhattan, stopped in midair. "Your ancestors tried this before." Marcus's voice boomed across the city. "They failed then, too." The ship's weapons powered down. Inside, the alien crew found their advanced technology refusing to work. On every Concordat ship, systems began to fail as awakened humans learned to affect machines with their minds. "I don't understand." Ambassador Thex's voice came through on the emergency channel. "These powers, they're impossible. Humans are not supposed to be capable of this." "That's where you're wrong," Marcus replied. "Humans were always capable. We just needed to wake up and remember." Dr. Walker's tablet beeped with new data. "The ancient facilities," he said, amazed. "They're not just storage units. They're training grounds. Earth itself is one giant training facility. Around the world, more humans awakened to their hidden potential. A farmer in Kansas discovered he could sense every living thing for miles around. A teacher in Japan found she could see the patterns of time itself. A young boy in Brazil learned he could heal with a touch. But it wasn't chaos. Each awakened human somehow knew how to use their gifts, as if the knowledge had been sleeping in their genes all along. "Look at this." Colonel Stone pointed to a new signal appearing on their radar. The other ancient facilities were connecting, forming a network that spanned the globe. And at each point, more sleeping warriors awakened to help train the newly powered humans. In orbit, the Concordat fleet retreated from Earth's atmosphere, their weapons, useless against powers they didn't understand, powered down. Ambassador Thex's voice had lost its threatening tone, and now held something close to awe. "The prophecy was true," he said quietly. "Earth was never just another planet. It was the cradle of the war gods. And now they've passed their power to all of you." Marcus landed in the command center, his armor shifting to a less militant form. "Not passed," he corrected. "Returned. This power was always human power. We just help you remember how to use it." Dr. Walker looked at his own hands, now faintly glowing with blue energy. He could see the mathematical patterns of reality itself, understanding sciences that moments ago would have seemed like magic. "But why now?" Colonel Stone asked. "Why wake us up at this moment?" Marcus's expression grew serious. "Because the Concordat's arrival means it's starting. The threat we went to sleep waiting for, it's finally coming. And humanity needed to be ready." Outside, the sun set on a changed Earth. Regular humans worked alongside their powered neighbors, learning and adapting with incredible speed. The Concordat fleet hung in orbit, no longer as conquerors but as witnesses to humanity's awakening. And deep in space, something stirred, sensing the return of its ancient enemies. The real reason for humanity's hidden legacy was about to reveal itself. 3 days after humanity's awakening, Marcus called Earth's leaders to the ancient facility beneath the Mariana Trench. The underwater base had become humanity's new command center, its ancient technology now fully active and humming with power. Dr. Walker sat next to Colonel Stone, both of them still adjusting to their new abilities. Around the circular table sat world leaders, military commanders, and even Ambassador Thex, who had been invited after the Concordat surrendered. "Now you must know the truth," Marcus said, standing at the center of the room. He waved his hand, and a hologram of the galaxy appeared above the table. "We didn't go to sleep because we were tired. We waited because we had to prepare you for what's coming. The hologram zoomed in on a dark area of space where no stars shone. As they watched, the darkness seemed to move, like ink spreading through water. We call it the void hunger, Marcus explained. His voice was heavy with memory. It has consumed 1,000 galaxies before ours. It devours not just matter, but the very laws of physics themselves. Ambassador Thex's silver skin paled to white. The great darkness. It's real. Very real, Marcus replied. My people, humanity's ancestors, fought it before. We drove it back, but at a terrible cost. We knew it would return, but we also knew that simply giving humans our power wouldn't be enough. Dr. Walker leaned forward, fascinated despite his fear. That's why you waited, why you let us develop on our own. Marcus nodded. Pure power isn't enough to fight the void hunger. It feeds on power, twists it, corrupts it. What we needed, he smiled. What we needed was human creativity. Your ability to adapt, to think in ways no other species can. Combined with our ancient power, it might be enough. Colonel Stone pointed at the hologram. How long do we have? A year, maybe less, Marcus replied. It's already consuming the outer edges of our galaxy. The Concordat's ships detected it, though they didn't know what they were seeing. Ambassador Thex stood up shakily. The prophecy. It wasn't about you destroying us, was it? It was about saving us. Your people remembered our war with the void hunger, but time twisted the story, Marcus explained. You forgot we were guardians, not conquerors. The room erupted in discussion as Earth's leaders tried to process this information. But Dr. Walker noticed something in the hologram, patterns in the way the void hunger moved. It's not random, he said suddenly, his newly awakened powers helping him see the truth. Look at the pattern of its expansion. It's almost like a program, like it's following some kind of code. Marcus's eyes lit up. This is exactly why we waited. No war god would have seen that pattern, but a human scientist, armed with both modern knowledge and ancient power. He turned to the room. This is how we'll win, not just with strength, but with understanding. Colonel Stone was already drawing up battle plans in her mind, combining modern military tactics with her new abilities. Around the table, other leaders began to see possibilities, ways to fight that combined human innovation with their awakened powers. We'll need to train more humans, Marcus said, and we'll need the Concordat's help. Your ships, your technology, combined with awakened human abilities, we can build defenses the void hunger has never encountered. Ambassador Thex bowed deeply. The Concordat stands ready to help. Perhaps this is why our civilizations were meant to meet. As the meeting continued, Dr. Walker studied the hologram of the approaching darkness. They had 1 year to prepare humanity, to combine their new powers with human science and ingenuity. 1 year to get ready for a threat that had destroyed countless civilizations before. But for the first time since learning about the void hunger, he felt hope. Humanity had never backed down from a challenge, and now they had the power of gods combined with human determination and creativity. The real war was about to begin. 6 months after the revelation of the void hunger, Earth had transformed into the galaxy's largest training ground. The ancient facility in the Mariana Trench now stretched up through the ocean, its top floors reaching above the waves like a massive silver tower. Dr. Walker stood at a window on the 100th floor, watching as ships from across the galaxy landed on the massive platforms surrounding the facility. Below him, in giant training halls, humans with awakened powers taught alien species how to combine technology with the ancient energies they now commanded. The latest test was successful, Colonel Stone said, walking into the room. Her uniform had changed, now incorporating pieces of the same living metal that Marcus wore. The new hybrid weapons worked perfectly, human creativity combined with Concordat technology and war god power. On a nearby screen, they could see the test footage. A small fighter ship, piloted by a human alien team, fired weapons that combined energy beams with the blue power of awakened humans. The target, a simulation of the void hunger's outer tendrils, actually retreated from the blast. Marcus was right, Dr. Walker said, checking the readings on his tablet. The void hunger doesn't know how to handle our combined abilities. It's never faced anything like this before. The door opened again, and Ambassador Thex entered with 3 other alien leaders. They no longer showed any fear of humans. Instead, they moved with the respect one shows to trusted teachers. The outer colonies report the void hunger has changed course, Thex announced. It's moving faster now, as if it senses what we're doing. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his armor shifting colors like oil on water. Good. Let it come. Every day we grow stronger. He walked to a large hologram table and activated it, showing the galaxy. Look how far we've come. The map showed hundreds of points of light, training centers where humans taught other species. The blue energy of awakened powers spread across the stars like a web, connecting civilizations that had been enemies just months ago. Report from Training Center 7. A young lieutenant called out. The first group of Concordat warriors has successfully merged their technology with awakened powers. They're ready for combat trials. Dr. Walker smiled, remembering how terrified the aliens had been of these abilities just months ago. Now they trained alongside humans, learning to access the same ancient energies that humanity had carried in its DNA for so long. The real question, Colonel Stone said, is whether we'll be ready in time. As if answering her question, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The hologram map flashed red at its edges as new data came in. The void hunger has increased speed, Marcus announced, his voice grave. It's consuming systems twice as fast now. We have 2 months at most before it reaches populated space. Instead of panic, the room filled with determined energy. Humans and aliens alike moved to battle stations, their movements smooth and coordinated after months of training together. Launch the Phase 2 defense platforms, Colonel Stone ordered. All training centers move to combat readiness. Dr. Walker watched as the galaxy map filled with movement. Ships and stations built by human-alien teams moved into position, forming layers of defense against the approaching darkness. Each vessel carried weapons and shields that existed because humans had thought of new ways to use ancient powers. You know what's amazing? He said to Marcus as they watched the preparations. 6 months ago, these species were ready to fight each other. Now look at them. Marcus nodded, his eyes glowing with pride. That's the real power we waited for. Not just the ability to fight, but to unite, to lead. Humanity didn't just wake up to power. You woke up to your true purpose. Through the window, more ships arrived, carrying warriors ready to learn from human teachers. The sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the ocean, but the facility glowed with its own light, a beacon of hope against the darkness that approached. The greatest battle in galaxy's history was coming. But for the first time since the war gods went to sleep, the galaxy faced the threat truly united, led by the very species that the Void Hunger's approach had meant to awaken. The day the Void Hunger reached the outer defense line, every being in the galaxy held their breath. On the command deck of Earth's orbital headquarters, Dr. Walker watched as the massive dark mass approached the first layer of ships and stations they had prepared. All units report ready, Colonel Stone announced, her voice carrying across the command center where humans and aliens worked side by side. The blue energy of awakened powers filled the room like a soft mist, connecting all present in a web of shared strength. Marcus stood at the front, his armor now a pure white that seemed to push back the darkness they could see through the viewport. Remember your training. His voice reached every defender across the galaxy through their shared connection. This is what we prepared for. The Void Hunger struck like a wave of living darkness, trying to consume the first line of defense. But this time, something different happened. The hybrid weapons, born from human innovation and ancient power, fired in perfect sync. Where the darkness touched their energy shields, it recoiled. The pattern, Dr. Walker called out, his enhanced mind seeing the flow of battle. It's changing its code. Everyone switched to Formation Beta. The combined fleet moved with perfect coordination. Ships piloted by human alien crews danced through space, their movements unpredictable in a way that confused the Void Hunger's systematic attacks. Every time it adapted to one strategy, humans thought of 3 new ones. "Look at the readings," Ambassador Thex said in awe. "The Void Hunger, it's not just being pushed back, it's being unwritten." He was right. Where their combined weapons struck, the darkness didn't just retreat, it began to dissolve. The laws of physics it had consumed began to restore themselves, stars rekindling in its wake. "This is why we waited," Marcus said, smiling at Dr. Walker. "The Void Hunger is a program, a corruption in reality's code. It could adapt to pure power, but it cannot adapt to human creativity combined with that power. Your species thinks in ways it cannot predict." Through their shared connection, Dr. Walker felt the moment the tide truly turned. A group of human scientists had noticed a pattern in the way the darkness dissolved. Working with Concordat engineers and guided by the war god's knowledge, they modified their weapons mid-battle. The next volley didn't just push the Void Hunger back. It began to unravel it completely. "All units," Colonel Stone commanded, "concentrate fire on these coordinates." The pattern Dr. Walker's team discovered, it's the key to its core. The galaxy lit up as every ship, every station, every defender focused their power on a single point. The Void Hunger tried to retreat, but humanity had learned from its mistakes over months of preparation. They had positioned ships behind it, boxing it in with walls of combined power. In the end, it wasn't just power that won the day. It was the combination of human innovation, alien technology, and the ancient strength that had slept in human DNA. The Void Hunger, faced with something it had never encountered in all its eons of existence, finally shattered. 1 month later, Dr. Walker stood with Marcus in the original underwater facility, now a museum. Through the reinforced windows, they could see ships from across the galaxy bringing new students to learn from human teachers. "You knew this would happen," Dr. Walker said, not as a question. "You knew humanity needed to develop its own way of thinking before we could access the old powers." Marcus nodded, his armor now a peaceful blue. "Power without wisdom is just another form of destruction. Humanity needed to learn who they were before they could learn what they could become. And now," he gestured to where a group of alien children watched in awe as their human teacher demonstrated both technological and awakened abilities. "Now we're no longer just war gods," Dr. Walker finished. "We're teachers, guardians. The best kind of power," Marcus agreed, "is the kind that lifts others up. Above them, the galaxy spun peacefully, its many species united not through conquest, but through shared purpose." Earth had become the heart of this new unity, not as a capital of an empire, but as a school, a place where any species could learn to combine their own unique traits with the powers that humanity had shown were possible. The war gods had awakened not to fight a war, but to help create a peace that would last far longer than any victory, and humanity had found its true destiny, not as conquerors of the stars, but as their guardians and teachers, leading the galaxy toward a future brighter than any single species could have created alone.